Next speaker is Stan Walters, and he is the president of Truth and Deception Incorporated. And his title is Flawed Interviews, Inconsistent Debriefings, Impaired Intelligence.
Seven seconds. That's the amount of time that we can sustain focused concentration. But also from research I've learned that that same 7 seconds is the time period we make a decision in any interview, field interview to an interrogation debriefing, to decide, did that subject just lie to me? 7-second turning point. Statistics also show us that 58% of the time your assessment will be wrong. More bad news is once we walk out of that interview, if you're finished debriefing that subject, debriefing that informant, the enemy combatant that's been taken off the field, in the battlefield, in the battle situation, a witness in the market where a bombing has taken place, a witness in the mall where there's been a shooting. When you walk out of the room, you will have left at least 60% of the important information on the table. You'll miss it. Now, I know you're thinking, well, not me, not my people. Tests also show us that interviewers profess to have a higher accuracy rating in spotting deception and getting information until you test them. And they perform far below their reputation and what they claim is their success rate. Now think of the impact that has on our critical cases. In the battlefield, if it's a detention facility, debriefing the subject who's witnessed an event, debriefing an informant, what does it do when you have a flawed interview, an incomplete briefing, which ultimately impairs your intelligence operation? We're all about information. But the first source of information starts with people. Now there's good news. First of all, this thing can be fixed. We can work on it. But it's going to take a little bit of time. And it starts with the virus that has perpetuated and replicating itself in our academies and our in-service training. Just like a virus in your IT system that gets in the thing, and my grandson got onto our laptop. We got one laptop we like to play because Logan punches every button that can be punched on the laptop. So the other day he said, "People, it won't work. I can't get into my games." So I brought the software out to clean it up. 750 different viruses and malware on this laptop. Took me 2 days to get the dang thing cleaned. We've got the same type of virus that's turned loose in our academies and our training about interview and interrogation. The first one, virus 1, is a perpetuation of blatant myths about the signs of deception. I do training all over. I train military, law enforcement, I train intelligence groups, I train across the Middle East, around the world. In every class, I start asking my students, first of all, what are some of the signs of deception? What have you been taught and what have you learned? And I'll have the list. Give me 5 body language cues and 5 speech cues. For more than 3 decades, I've done this. When they call these out, 85% of the signs they'll tell me are wrong. And it's what they're being taught through academies and through officer training and in-service training. Now, I bet you right now, if I asked you to write down 5 body language cues and 5 speech cues, if you want, just think of them in your mind for just a second. And I will bet you I can pick almost every one of them you're going to write down. One you're going to write down is, if he breaks eye contact, he's lying. There's at least 35 empirical studies that show that there is no correlation between eye contact and deception. Do you know that? That's one of the most persistent myths worldwide. There's studies that show that some subjects, about 40% of our population, actually increase eye contact when they're being deceptive. If they look at you more when they're lying than when you're telling the truth. That's one of the first things people write down. Or you probably got this one. Here's another of those myths that's perpetuated horrendously within law enforcement. If you ask a question look to the left, he's recalling. If you ask a question look to the right, he's constructing. If you ask a question look to the left, he's recalling, so he's telling the truth. If you ask a question look to the right, he's making it up, so anybody who breaks eye contact to the right is lying. How have you been taught that? It's garbage. There's over 100 published studies in the last 5 years alone show there's absolutely no correlation at all to eye movement and deception. But it's thoroughly embedded in federal agencies, in military, and intelligence agencies. I can tell you because I've talked to all of them. But they're convinced, oh no, it has to work. The last study, let me ask you this, how many would risk the lives of your personnel if they had a 10% chance of surviving on the mission? That's the correlation rate of eye movement to deception. 10%. 1 out of 9 or 1 out of 10 times you'll be right. The other 9 times you'll be wrong. You probably write down things like if he crosses his arms, he's being deceptive. Has anybody thought of that one? If he crosses his legs, he's closing you out. He's lying. No correlation to it. If he's fidgeting and playing with clothes, if he's grooming me, if he's looking at his watch, if he sleeps, he's guilty. Have you been taught that? That's coming straight from our academy material. And some of it is just plain flat quackery. I've been following this one. I got to share this. I YouTubed this thing about 2 months ago. I got bunches of hits on this. Following this course, taught for post-certification major law enforcement agencies. You know the little lines in your lip right here? Little things right there, it's called the filtrum. This is what's on the course. I have the handouts, I've got the PowerPoint slides, I've got the test. If those are too far apart, that's a sign you're a child molester. Oh yeah, that's what we're talking. If you have more than 3 wrinkles in your brow, you're clinically depressed, you're likely to commit suicide. Oh, and it has a whole series on how women wear their makeup. If their eyebrows are drawn too high, they're very histrionic and drama queen. If they're too low or too close together, they're very formal and they're very acid personalities. If a woman with thin lips puts lipstick on, she's very formal. She's got thick lips and puts lipstick